Before we go any further, I should point out that yes, I have seen Phalus's first video detailing the dumbest moments of this original series. While I'm not a huge fan of Phalus, I will admit this list has made me think that I may not have done a good enough job pointing out just all of the silly things that went on in this series. I'm gonna try to do a better job as we go forward, and given that subsequent seasons will have less and less episodes, there's probably a better chance of that. The 5th season opens with My Brother the Bad Guy, which begins with Donatello designing a new snack machine, and I just realized something. Michelangelo is supposedly the one obsessed with eating, but a lot of Don's inventions were food-based. Maybe he was trying to think up something new to take care of Mikey's appetite.
Peanut butter and broccoli popcorn? Well, it is a change.
Remember, my student, change is not always for the better.
Anyway, Shredder and Krang's latest plan is to use a super fusion reactor's giant magnet to yank the Technodrome free of its trapped lava bed in Dimension X, but this time the Turtles find an unlikely ally in their fight against him.
I am Lieutenant Kazuo Saki of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police.
Did you say Saki? As in Oroku Saki? That's Shredder's last name.
So yeah, I'm guessing you already know the big flaw in this area if you know anything about Far Eastern culture. In Asian cultures, the family name is the first name. So these two should share the same name, Oroku.
My baby brother, Kazuo. So, Mommy finally let you put on long pants, huh?
I don't recall if they made that same mistake back in the Shredder's Mom episode, but I'll give them credit for getting it right in a later episode.
Your disgrace shames me as well.
You think I'm not ashamed of having a brother who's a policeman?
Actually, that has some funny irony in it, because if the Shredder's Mom episode is in canon, think about that. That would make Kazuo the black sheep of this family. Anyway, the Turtles can't stop them from pulling the Technodrome out of Dimension X, so it's once again time for Donatello to use that techno-magic genius to redirect the magnet's force or something like that, to instead send the Technodrome into the Arctic.
Look at all the snow. We won't have to go to school today.
We ain't been to school in 15 years.
I know. I just like to say it.
Boy, after all those months of the Technodrome being in lava, and now they're stuck in the cold of the Arctic, boy, the climate control on that place must be wrecked. So yeah, now that the Technodrome is trapped on the Earth again, it's back to using the transport modules and trying to figure out how to get the thing free from its icy chasm. And this may have been the season when the stories might have started heading south. You know how I've said up to this point the show was made with marketing toys in mind, but still put the story ahead of the marketing for the most part? In this season, it started to go in reverse. By this season, I think the toy line was in its 4th edition, and someone must have realized there were action figures not yet made into characters. So the first 3 weeks included episodes designed to pretty much throw in new characters into the mix. The first was Michelangelo meets Mondo Gecko, where we learned that a lizard had apparently also gotten into the mutagen that changed the turtles, but was then taken by an evil mastermind so creatively named Mr. X.
We came from the same sewer. We're born to be best buds, not enemies. Gee.
The story of this episode did get kinda lame, mainly because Mikey spends much of the episode saying that Gecko looks familiar when we all know where he came from since we saw it in Mike's dream sequence in the beginning. Still, this supposed retcon didn't seem as bad to me as Phalis thought, even though the turtles didn't go straight from the glass bowl to the mutagen in this cartoon. But trust me, I think we know of some much worse ones about someone else being in the mutagen. And Mondo wasn't a total loss of a character after the turtles turned him to the good side, because he will appear later in the series. Which I can't say for the next two. The second week brought us Inter-Mutagen Man. While Shredder is making a new batch of mutagen, a geeky parcel delivery boy stumbles into the warehouse they're using, thinking it's a flower shop. Yeah, this is why I still use the postal service. And falls into the mutagen that somehow rips his body into pieces. So Shredder and the goons put him back together as a mutant freak that needs mutagen to stay in one piece. It's a total one-shot as the turtles help him get the chemical he needs to mutate permanently back into his old self. Or rather, what he wants to look like. The next week gave us Muckman and Joe Eyeball, two garbage men that were pretty much mutated into living pieces of garbage. Okay, I can enjoy mutant turtles living in a sewer, but did we need to add characters that look like they came from the Garbage Pail Kids cards? And a lot of the new villains weren't much to write home about either. Like last year, the second episodes featured different evildoers, but this time it didn't look like they were putting in much effort. Phalis already mentioned the ridiculousness of Mad Dog McMutt, but we also had a professor obsessed with becoming an Egyptian pharaoh, though he does give maybe the best reason for becoming a villain.
How come you crackpots always want to take over the world?
What, you mean aside from the limitless power and wealth and the chance to get back at anyone who ever hurt your feelings? No special reason.
There was also the Bad Family, a group of hillbilly gangsters, and then there was, this guy.
The wait is over, Swatter! At last! Exactly what is so amusing?
Oh, what are you supposed to be, a cheap imitation of Shredder?
Yeah, wait till old Shredhead finds out you ripped off his costume.
And get this, he was really a comic book creator named Jerry Spiegel. Get it, like Jerry Siegel, co-creator of Superman, ha ha ha, who set loose a horde of metal-eating termites to wreak havoc and lure the turtles in just so he could get information on them to put in a comic book. Oh, what you had to do for info before the internet. The pinnacle of a cheap, lazy episode might have been Raphael versus the Volcano, which wasn't just ripping off the title of the forgetful Tom Hanks movie Joe versus the Volcano, it practically used the same story. Raph thinks he has a terminal disease, so he goes into daredevil hero mode to stop a scientist from using a volcano's eruption to destroy all plant life on Earth. And he wants to do this because his botany club wouldn't name the flower he discovered after him. Uber lame. Not that the episodes with returning characters were much better. Landlord of the Flies brought back Baxter Stockman with no explanation as to how he got out of limbo or what happened to his computer buddy, only that he now has control over all the flies in the city. Man, if he had teamed up with the Rat King, they would have combined to have a pest invasion no one could have stopped. And guess what? This episode's writer didn't write another one for at least this whole season, and I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't write one before or since. At this time, David Wise, Dennis O'Flaherty, and Misty Taggart were pretty much the main writers of the show, but they obviously needed to recruit outside help for one or two eps, and this guy must have thought he didn't have to do any damn research. Needing freelance writers isn't that shocking, really, because it was around this time that Saturday morning shows were really starting to have their budgets cut. I mentioned that the Turtles and Garfield each had an hour time slot on CBS, but they couldn't produce enough episodes to fill that time for 13 weeks. Only 9 weeks worth of new episodes were made for this year, with reruns from season 4 filling in the remaining weeks. The last episode of the year featuring a Shredder and Krang story was Welcome Back Polarisoids, which brought back the alien with the special camera, this time with his family. And the alien who we now know is named Fripp does have more personality in this ep, but it sadly gets overshadowed by his really, really annoying kids.
Now come on, dudes, we gotta clean this place up.
Sure thing, Michelangelo. Catch, say cheese.
Fripp told me they won't be back this way for another 3,026 gazillicrons.
A gazillicron is exactly 1,700 microseconds, and converting that to Earth hours means they'll be back next Tuesday.
Tuesday? Oh, give me that calculator.
In summary, the 5th season of the first Ninja Turtle series, yeah, in retrospect, I'd say it took a step back. The episodes featuring Shredder and Krang were decent when they weren't shoehorning in new characters, but the secondary episodes too often looked like they were struggling to create good antagonists and stories. It's probably better off that their episode count was reduced. And for what it's worth, the show was still able to get a second season, but that might have been due to lack of competition on Saturdays, since the syndication market that they had left was now starting to grow. Still, can Season 6 be a bounce-back year? Can they find an even lamer place for the Technodrome to get stuck? Does the Shredder have any more relatives out there we'll need to discover? We'll find out next time!